I can talk with a smile. No, I'm good.
You can't talk with a smile. It's so natural for you.
She got that RBF on lock.
The what?
RPF.
Oh my God.
On lock.
Look, guys, my face is just relaxed. It's not serious. It's just relax.
Thing. Sounds like there's some drama.
There's definitely
Called.
Oh my God. It begins. Life.
I see like everyone plays a part, right?
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Thing Called Life. Welcome back to Thing Called Life. I'm Dr. Damaris.
I'm Bianca.
Extra happy today.
With that tone, man. No, I was kidding. And I'm Kareem.
That's just the tone that your man wants. He wants you to be like,
I'm Bianca.
"Hi, honey.
How is everyone
you?"
doing today? Like Miss Rachel on YouTube or what?
Who's that?
I don't know. Some lady that entertains children.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Let that one breathe a little bit. Would this
You can
dog-
let it breathe.
Sugar, quit licking me. Go play somewhere.
He has someone licking him under the table.
It's not someone, it's a dog.
someone.
Okay, relax.
That doesn't make it any better.
Well, I have my hand appropriately placed so there's no intrusion.
So she doesn't get to where she wants to
She's
get.
just trying to
Right.
clean you, you know?
She
Can we-
really
all right,
likes him.
let's
Like
talk
she is
about
all up on
something
him
else.
too.
Something else entirely.
All right, so I'll share. I know we talked about books and movies recently, but I've read the It Ends With Us book by Colleen Hoover, and they just made a movie, and I went to see it yesterday, and it's centered around domestic violence and all that, and it is fantastic. I have to. The book
So-
is
Has Ryan
the book
Reynolds'
is
wife
as
in it?
usual. The book is better than the movie,
Always.
right? But what'd you say?
Has Ryan Reynolds' wife in it?
Yeah, Blake Lively.
Yes,
That
she
I could
produced
never
it.
remember her name.
She actually produced it along with so there's this drama circling that whole movie right now because the guy that produced it, I can't remember his name. I think it's like Justin Baldoni or something like that.
Okay.
He was in I just blanked.
Movie,
Not
TV
Ugly
show.
Betty, but the other one.
The what?
He was in one of those series
Okay, TV show.
Jane the Virgin.
Okay.
He's the guy in Jane the Virgin.
Okay.
But he was, I don't know if, because Blake was the producer, so I can't remember what his title was, but apparently they seemed to disagree and got into it, and there's some sort of
Hollywood
rift
drama.
between the actors and him, and I guess they don't speak, and they unfollowed him on social media, so it's this whole big thing, but the point of the movie and the message and all that is actually really good. However,
good.
I will advise if you have been a victim of domestic violence, it can be a little triggering.
Well, that's the thing. So I haven't read the book, but I heard about it, the movie. And when I heard about the movie, I didn't even know it was about domestic violence. Honestly, like the trailer didn't portray that. I was just kind of, you know what it kind of reminded me of?
really
What's that last movie that she made? Favor, where it was Blake Lively and that girl from the choir movie. What's it called?
Whoopi Goldberg?
No.
That's a deep cut.
That's
No.
the sister act is required.
What is it
Deep
called?
cut.
It's called Favor. It's called Favor.
Oh, I don't know.
But like pretty
Oh,
much
so
like
you mean the chick who's in what is it called?
Pitch Perfect.
Wicked?
Pitch Perfect.
Oh,
Pitch
what?
Perfect. The girl from Pitch Perfect. I can't
Okay.
remember her name.
Okay,
And then
okay.
Blake Lively. It's a movie called Favor or something like that. And like Blake Lively is like a twin in the movie, her character, and she's kind of like crazy because she goes around like pretty much conning people. I don't know. Y'all haven't seen it? It's really
No.
good. She has amazing outfits in that movie too.
Is it
But-
on Netflix or
Amazing
something?
outfits.
Yes, it is actually on Netflix.
Oh, I may have to go check
But
that out.
movie, that's what I thought this one was kind of like. Like, I thought her character in the movie was going to be like somebody that cons someone. That's what I thought. But then when people were talking about it, I was like, domestic violence. I was like, the trailer doesn't even portray that. Like,
really
where did
doesn't.
I was like, what? Like, I thought it was a rom-com. I didn't know what it was.
You know, when I first read the book, I thought it'd be just a regular romantic. Because Colleen Hoover is known for writing really good books. She has, obviously, a long list of books that she's written, and quite a few have turned into movies.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't expecting that, and there's 2 books in the series. It ends with us and it starts with us, and they were both very, very good.
I'm going to have to go watch this now.
Well, maybe it stems from like, you know, usually good writers actually can like reach out in certain ways to their audience. You know what I mean? Like give them a platform. It's almost like what we were talking about with Dr. David Jones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where, you know, you have your ticket and you can put on a certain mask in order to get through this thing. sometimes like books and movies can do the same thing for you. You know what I mean? So I'm assuming she felt, enough trust in like her audience to release something like this that would get, like you said, when you watch the movie, it's a bit triggering, right? It might get something dislodged from someone reading it and give them the courage to either stand up for themselves or do some kind of therapy or get past, that feeling. So
yeah, and my understanding is that the storyline is loosely based on either her mom or someone she knows.
Someone close
so
to her.
there is some like, because it's interesting. Yeah, there's some truth to it. It's interesting as someone who's been in an abusive relationship. There's a certain thinking that you experience, and I think we've talked about this a little bit in the past, where if you're on the outside, you think, I would never in a million years, which I did also think, I would never in a million years allow some shit like that to happen.
Yeah.
And God forbid someone ever tries. I'm
in the name of love.
And then you're in it and you just realize, oh my God, like it's not as easy as you think when you truly love someone and you see how they behave either under the influence or with something triggers, and then you find out that there's things from their past that has caused them to behave this way. It makes you react in a different way than what you would just normally assume, right? And it's difficult to get out of that because you love this person and you try to empathize with why they do what they do. It's a weird, just psychological mind fuck.
But you're trying to forgive yourself through them, and that's not fair to them or you, because in this instance, right? Psychologically, this person was abused. Let's say they kept being told that they were fat. So they make it their mission to lose weight, but every time they look in the mirror, they only see the old them. That's a tough, pill to swallow, and that's why, like, what is it?
Body dysmorphia.
Yeah, body dysmorphia is such a huge thing right now because it's people's perception of themselves. I hate to go back to that previous podcast again, but again, when Dr. Jones was talking about learned behavior, that's all this is. It's us seeing what we've seen within our experience only, and again, perspective was a big thing when we were talking about these different things. And I believe if we could have a lot more grace for each other, because I think loving someone outside of yourself or loving someone outside of yourself more than you love yourself is the first step to your downfall. Because you're putting that person on a pedestal.
Yeah.
If again, the wisest words that are uttered almost daily, maybe thousands of times a day, are when there's an emergency, put your mask on first and then assist others. And it's so hard, here on the surface, for people to like flip the switch and go, okay, look, in this instance right now, am I safe? And then once that is answered, whether yes or no, let's say it's no, then you do whatever you need to be safe so that you can then help others. If you go into a situation where you're not safe and you try to provide help, both of you are going to, fall apart.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want.
And it's you said something that kind of had me thinking. It's about loving yourself first and being able to figure out what makes you happy. And with that whole body dysmorphia thing, when you have someone that you love, that you say loves you, telling you things about yourself, you start to question yourself. And then when you do get to a point where, like, okay, maybe you lose a little bit of weight, then you question, even if, is this enough? Should I be where I'm at? Like, you don't even feel like you can answer that because you've depended on someone to give you that
from
feedback.
Outside of yourself.
And it's tough to switch that mindset to be like, you know what? I kind of am happy with myself, with the way I look and how I, portray myself and how I put myself together, and not having to look to someone else to give you that validation, which unfortunately for a lot of women, and it's sad, and I see it especially with the younger generation, and social media, I think, is such a big factor, is that they're constantly looking for validation in someone else.
Well, and the one thing that I've noticed recently, and now getting understanding of all this, is that like when it comes this is so hilarious, But when it comes to men communicating with women, we perceive you ladies as complicated. So we just do. Okay. So
But we're definitely more complex.
But it's true
than
when
men.
they say
We are.
like we speak two different languages. Like you can say the same sentence and a man will say it and a woman say it and we will understand completely two different things.
That's- Yep.
but I think
Very
that's inherently the situation I'm talking about. So like, you know, if I come to ask you a question, I need to make sure that the box is checked pre-making this question, because there are certain things that I know might trigger you, or two that are going on in your life right then. And again, you know, meeting someone where they are, that's another huge one. If you show up and let's say you didn't get that promotion that you were looking for, right? So now you have to come into this scenario, which is just a normal plane scenario, and be just at least plane, but you're not on plane. You're beneath that. That is where, you know, having that other person to be able to see from your perspective and be able to explain, okay, I know that this is all this stuff is going on. This is the sentence I need to put forth in order for me to get across what I need to tell her without making her feel less than.
And I'm kind of glad that you keep saying perspective, because I want to say that I said something about this on one of our episodes, but it kind of reminds me of like the mirror effect. Like we were shown Disney movies or any type of movie, and it's always like the mirror on the wall and you make a wish or whatever towards the mirror. But to me, I feel like the mirror effect is like that person that has said the hurtful things to you. It's their projection of themselves and their worth, and they put that on you.
Right.
And it's so strong sometimes that you embed yourself with that person because you love each other, that you see yourself through their eyes, not your own. And like, you know how like you were saying your perspective, and
you give your power away at that point.
Yeah, you do give your power away, but not only that, but it's to understand that person doesn't see themselves as worthy and they talk down to you because it's a reflection of themselves. But then you start to believe it when you're told something enough, that it breaks down you mentally and emotionally. And it's just like, damn, that sometimes like people don't realize that, yeah, I've personally been in and have seen domestic abuse, like physically. But then to know it on a level of mental and emotional, that's even worse, because those are like the silent killers.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that you see these people out every day and you would never know.
As someone that's been in both, I can tell you it's destructive in a different way.
Yeah, because there's no physical signs anywhere.
And because it's something that wears at you slowly. It's almost like, you know how they say when you have a rock and you drop water on it, it starts wearing away. And it's like that, I believe, with the verbal abuse. It's like it starts off and then it keeps wearing and wearing and wearing, and then you get to a point where you're just like, oh my God, am I worth anything anymore?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like from day one, when that first, let's say disrespectful. So that first disrespectful sentence, phrase, whatever was uttered, that's when that difficult conversation needs to be had.
But it doesn't always start like that.
Whether it does or not, that's the person that you're allowing that person to define you as. So if I come up to you and I say some hurtful things to you and you don't correct me on that, there's no way I'm going to know that. And I think in my upbringing, me and mom and dad used to talk shit to each other all the time. That's how they loved each other. You, on the other hand, your mom and dad might have like every single word was like some kind of romance novel. So when he comes at you with, you know, the jokey whatever, which he saw growing up, that doesn't land well.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
It's definitely, yeah, I could say that definitely upbringings and the way you're raised and what you see growing up is going to impact how you behave.
So if you step in that moment when the perceived disrespect, because again, you were raised with a certain type of value, right? So when that perceived disrespect comes up, you go, hey honey, I love you to death, but in this moment, like talking to me like that is not what I appreciate. And then at that point, if you know he's worth his salt, he'll instead of blowing up on you. I mean, that's what most women think is going to happen. But then the opposite happens, where you don't say anything and like that water keeps dropping on that rock, and when it splits it in half, then there's a big eruption because there's liquid hot magma at the bottom of that rock. And it's coming right at your face. We don't want that. And again, I think communication is key. So this is where respecting yourself and knowing that you're worth, like if you step up to somebody and say, hey, I don't like that, and they dismiss you, that means they don't respect you. You shouldn't be with anybody that doesn't respect you. It's easier to walk then than to sit there and wait for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months after they've been disrespecting you.
Oh yeah, of
and
course.
then you stand your ground. At that point, the damage is done.
But I feel like sometimes it's case to case in the situation of like, I'll give you two situations, right? You'll have one situation where, let's say the person was dating someone for 8 to 12 months, right? And not once had that person ever like
disrespected
nothing, right? Okay. But with time, it's like they blew up out of nowhere, which shocked you because you have been vulnerable with this person in every way possible. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of, not that you dismiss it, but you excuse it in a way because it's like, oh, well, this person did something one time. Okay. And that's usually what happens, because what you're not realizing is like how Damaris was saying, the droplets on the rock. In that 8 to 12 month period, let's say they never did anything drastically, but it was the little minor things. It was like paper cuts.
Well, again,
over and over again, but you didn't notice
that's it. That's them though, because they're not grown up enough to tell you again, hey, this, whatever you're doing or saying, does not jive with me. They feel as though if they tell you that, you'll walk. And if you walk, they need to be okay with that. But their self-respect is the thing that you don't want them letting go of. Yeah,
and like how y'all said, it goes based off of like how you were raised, and also like, let's say if you were, what type of relationship you were in previously. Right. Because if you're torn down already and then you get with somebody that's like, it's not that you have a pattern, it's just you're already beaten down, so you're just kind of like, I guess this is how I'm supposed to be treated. You don't understand the perspective. Then you have other situations where it's like people are married, or let's say have children, have a household, everything's intertwined, so it's harder to escape and pull apart because it's like a process that you're trying to do it in a quiet manner to where you don't awaken the beast. You get what I'm saying?
It's difficult too, especially that's a very good point. When you are intertwined with someone in a way that you're either already living together or you have just joint situations, it is sometimes difficult to say, okay, now what do I do? Yeah. How do I get out of this?
You have to have
if you have children, it makes it more difficult because now you have kids involved. Like, how do I remove myself and my kids from
But it's harder said than done.
Y'all are talking about leaving. What I'm saying is that you have the difficult conversation. I said nothing about leaving. Yeah. Obviously. So
but that's the point of when people realize, because sometimes they don't realize in the process until they've had enough, or they're like, this is something that's never occurred and now I'm realizing a pattern. So when they awaken from what's going on and they realize, it's usually because they're trying to leave already, not at the beginning when something mishap happens. Well, so it's different.
The thing is, subconsciously, as much as we want to tap dance around this realization, everyone knows when they're being disrespected. You've seen where somebody said something, and especially in mixed company, and then you'd get like a squint from a certain aunt or uncle, and then like again the disrespect continues, and then someone will clear their throat. These are all signs that your family's trying to reach out to you and tell you, hey, this person's not for you. But we miss those things because we're in puppy love and all that bullshit. The thing is, from the get-go, the thing that you need to, and this is for you, not the other person, because if you know who you are and you know your boundaries, at that point, you can make that person safe. They don't have to step on any of the freaking landmines, let's call them. Emotional landmines that are out there because you've protected them. Hey, look, let's get these couple things out of the way right now. One, do not ever talk to me in disrespect. If you do, we are done, because I don't talk to you with disrespect, and vice versa. I don't want the same. And that's the type of household I was raised in, or that's the type of household that I want. That needs to be expressed up front, and then there's a conversation that can happen. Okay, well, what does disrespect look like for you? Now
I think that's the key conversation.
No, that's
because
what I'm saying.
I think the "don't disrespect me" is kind of implied in any relationship. Yeah. You don't go into a relationship and say, you know what, I want to be disrespected. I mean, I guess maybe you could, but typically you don't. It's what you consider disrespect.
Correct.
Because, like, for example, with my ex, he grew up in a household where they cursed each other out and it was no big deal. Yeah. And for me, that was shocking.
Right.
Because my parents did not ever, my parents barely fought in front of me. They barely argued in front of me, let alone call each other every name in the book.
Weird. That's weird that I just made an analogy and you just made the same thing, but
But like, I guess,
no, because it's
But
that's
it's real.
very true.
It's
It's
real,
very
yeah.
true.
I see
Wow.
it. The reason
Consider
why I
that.
say it's a case by case is because not only like I've seen things that were not my situations, but also I've dealt with my own situations. But I've seen so many movies portrayed in different ways. Like, what's that one show, Big Little Lies or something like that, was on HBO, has Nicole Kidman and all these. So in that one, her husband was never abusive, only in the bedroom though.
Was it Pretty Little Liars?
No, that's a
it's
different show.
That's a different show. I know what you're talking about. That's a really good show.
And so
actually.
in the show, you see like her husband was never abusive towards her, but in the bedroom he was rougher than usual, and she thought it was just something that he like a kink of his in the bedroom, but without realizing he was taking all his anger out on her and leaving marks that were not okay. And that was a form of domestic violence, but she didn't realize it until she woke up one day and was like, this is not okay.
But the realization comes with the first like, when I say offense, when the emotion or the physicality escalates, questions need to be asked. Okay, hey, hang on. Before we go down this route, like, is this something that you're into? And that's again communication. I think the big thing that people
that's a lot easier said than
it's
done.
not.
But also
when
because
when it's just slight, you're just like, okay, he got a little rough today, and then next time you're like, oh, I guess he kind of likes a little rough, and then
it builds.
But that's the thing, that initial becomes norm because you become numb to it. It's like when you keep doing something over and over again, then it's no longer the same level of effect.
I understand that, but like if you go from, let's say you go from like third base, right, straight to like Pornhub, you need to ask a question. You have.
The thing is that that's not it. As someone that's been in an abusive relationship, that's not how it happens.
Honestly, but I think it's going to be hard for you to understand. Like we said earlier, you're a man, we're a woman.
Unless you've been in a relationship like that.
Because a lot of the times,
you allow disrespect.
No, a lot of the times, women are the ones that are being abused compared to a man in a relationship. I'm not saying that men don't. There is cases where there are.
Because what's happening? What did you just say?
But
caveats. You're like, oh well, I'll let that one slide.
No. But I think it's a determination of how you were raised, how you've been treated in previous relationships, how you value yourself, and you look at yourself.
Start with that. It should start with how you value yourself.
It all adds up. So then when, like Damaris was saying, it's like something happens, your tolerance for that is going to go up without you realizing, because something is repetitively happening.
Until I guess to a point that one day you're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
What
you wake up, it's like a light bulb goes off.
Yeah,
and like for me, in my situation, my ex was great unless he was drunk. And so then the first time, and this didn't happen for a while in our relationship, the first time he was drunk, it was like, oh, people get drunk. It happens. You get drunk and you go crazy, and it's like, all right, hey, last night you were drunk.
Occasion
didn't even remember half the things that happened.
Excuse number one. Okay, go.
And then it's like, oh, okay, then I'm gonna stop drinking for a while, and you're like, okay. He understood situation was out of place, and then all of a sudden starts drinking a little bit more, and it happens again, and you're just like, "Whoa, this happened again."
That's when the conversation needs to be had.
Then no, because then you get the, "Oh, maybe I should go get some help." So then they go get some help. It stops for a while. Months later, happens again, and you're just like,
see, and that's the thing right there. That's the key.
So by that time, this is now like a year and a half into it. You're just like, "Whoa!" Now you're in this relationship. You're living with this person, and this is happening. You're like, okay. Whoa, what's the best course of action, especially as a woman and as a mom?
You have to fix your picker.
You have to address.
But see, I think the key thing that Damaris said, which is in all situations that I've seen, it's the person that manipulates, in the sense of when they do something wrong, you're shocked. But then there's this whole apology process that happens for months at a time.
Oh yeah,
they correct their actions. They don't do it again for a while.
Yep.
They serenade you in all kinds of ways. But then it happens again. So that's the thing, is like that little process right there is what gives you the mindset to be like, oh, I'm forgiving of this person.
And in this movie, they portray that, because at one point they're arguing and he pushes her down the stairs. And then when she wakes
spoiler alert.
He was a doctor. Well, if you've read the book, you would know this.
Yeah.
This is not like it's just something that happens in the book, in the movie as well. When she wakes too, and he's like helping her, he's like cleaning her up. He's like, oh, I'm helping you get, you fell down the stars and I'm helping you. And she's like, oh, okay.
So
let me.
What is it called? What is it called?
Yes, most abusive people gaslight you. It is a trait.
What is it called? It's an actual disorder. There's a word. It's not Sherlock Holmes, but it sounds like Sherlock. I'm trying to remember the name. It's It's a thing whenever you fall in love with the person that's your abuser.
Oh,
What is it called?
Oh, Stockholm.
Stockholm. I said Sherlock Holmes. Close enough. Stockholm, Sherlock Holmes, same thing. But yes, that's a symptom that usually happens because of the part of the forgiving process. Yeah, whenever you're being apologized to and given things and you're being cared for in a way that you're like, oh, okay, they didn't mean it.
No. Okay.
To me, honestly, I think that's what it is.
So again, you ladies are letting yourselves off the hook because y'all are probably the best. Hang on. Y'all are probably the best pattern recognizers on the planet. So once the first offense happens, you put it in your record, right? And then once he apologized, blah, blah, and it happens again, that difficult conversation needs to happen then. Usually what happens, like y'all have explained, and I have been listening, you say that the first time, oh, well, it was a special occasion. Second time, oh, well, people get drunk. Third time, now you catch the pattern. Second time, should have known. If someone apologizes and the behavior is the same, it's not what the person says, it's what they do.
Yes, but it's also your memory. If you don't remember, then it's kind of like, well, this is like the second time.
Who's not remembering?
I'm saying like it depends on the occurrence. Like let's say it was something as bad as the second time and not as bad as the third time.
Right.
So like she was saying, your tolerance is built. So it's not that you don't remember, but you're kind of like trying to put the pieces together. So it takes you a while to do a puzzle. It don't matter if it's a 20-piece puzzle or 5-piece. It takes you a little bit to figure out, okay, there is a pattern. And sometimes you don't get it till the third or fourth time it's happened.
Let's ask this pattern question then. So like in these situations, are both parties drinking?
I don't know.
Usually.
Okay,
but
so
obviously, I'm not a big drinker, so I'm not getting saying, like, obliterated where I can't walk or talk.
What you do in certain instances is you start... Just like with dieting, let's say you want to figure out what's going on with you. You start subtracting certain things, right? Like, for instance, me, I subtracted pork. Started feeling a lot better, so don't eat pork anymore. You subtract other things, like cheese. I fucking hate getting rid of cheese. I do eat it on occasion, but it does suck that I don't put cheese on everything anymore. But I have, like, succumbed to doing that. But these are things that you do also in your life. You need to subtract things that don't serve you. If, giving away your trust without it actually being earned, that needs to stop immediately.
Oh, I have something for that, though.
Oh, God, here we go.
So, I actually...
This is her Ozempic for this problem.
What? No. I actually have something to say about trust. So... and it all has to do with your perspective. So I was the type of person where it was kind of like I gave you no trust and you had to earn it, right? But there was no way to actually measure how somebody was earning their trust, in my mind at least. So I flipped it and I said, okay, I give a person the opportunity of 100% trust, and every time you do something, then I can subtract it from that 100. So I can measure trust that way compared to the other way. So that's what I'm saying. It's all on your perspective, because sometimes we as people, like, we learn different ways. We're hands-on, we're visual learners, stuff like that. So it's kind of like, if I can't measure what you are doing, whether it's good or bad, how do I measure it? It's like, so you have to change your perspective on the situation at times.
You're testing somebody without giving them any of the answers.
Because
or giving them
you see the good qualities in somebody regardless of their past.
No, but the thing is, like, again, this is where boundaries come into play. If you come into the relationship and you say immediately, hey, look, I don't like anyone raising their voice at me. If that's something that you like to do, we are not going to get on. I enjoy date nights or whatever. Just start lining out the certain things. I want to have children. That is a difficult conversation to have. But I would rather have the motherfucker right then instead of going, oh, my God, she's gorgeous and this and that, and get all this infatuation going. And then what we call pot committed. And that's what happens to y'all. You get pot committed because you've been in a relationship with somebody for 5 months. They repeat the same shit attitude or action. And then instead of dismissing them, you dismiss the behavior. And then you're down the road to sorrow and pain. When it should be immediately, hey, look, I already told you from day one, I don't like heavy drinkers. I don't like this. I don't like that. And as soon as they do break any one of those disrespectful things, which you see as a disrespect, they got to fucking go.
And I agree with you to a certain extent. You just don't think of every single thing up front. Like, I never thought I would have to tell someone, you can't curse at me. Like that's something to me should be implied.
No.
Or
Again,
hey, you know
don't
what? If you get drunk, I don't want you to push me.
If you
Like
watch,
who says that? Like that's
look
not a conversation that you just randomly have.
Look at the movie The Sopranos, and don't even get me on the whole pushing thing. When you women are excited, especially when you're around dudes, y'all push and slap the shit out of us.
I don't know who you're hanging out with.
There's something to be said about a playful.
I have never
like,
done that.
Hey, and then like I'm gonna push
I
you
do
across
not.
the room.
I don't do that, but
I'm not a person that puts my hands on.
I've never
people
done
like
that, Kareem. I've learned keep your hands to yourself.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
The most I'll do would be like, oh my god, but not.
like you
just
act like somebody
shoving.
pushed you across
She's
the damn
kinda-
room,
she's kinda-
Kareem.
There's certain things you just
She's
don't bring up
Shola-ish,
though.
But I don't know. I feel like
a phrase that I've read recently that kind of really stuck with me, and I'm like, it is so true, and it applies to everything. Is trust is gained in droplets and lost in buckets,
oh yeah, for sure.
and it's so true and so heavy and so like
Because,
But
yeah,
you know
and
where
that's the same thing. How I said I
Do you know
flipped the
what-
whole analogy of like how trust is represented in my mind, because I was like, how am I measuring somebody earning something? I don't know how to measure that because didn't make sense to me. So I flipped it and I was like, I can see them doing the bad things and they lose the trust with time, where it's like, you have no trust now.
So no, basically what you're doing is you're putting the responsibility of them, of you knowing yourself on them, which is wrong.
How? What do you mean?
What do you mean? You don't know what you just said?
I do know what I said,
So
but
you're
I'm
gonna
understanding.
give
I'm trying
them-
to understand what your perspective
so
is.
basically, again, you've given them a test without giving them any of the cliff notes, no fucking reading, no background whatsoever, and you're marking them off as you go, and they are none the wiser.
No,
they
because
don't-
if they know my boundaries ahead of time, like, hey, I don't like
Have you
this, I don't.
told them
But
this?
she's
Yeah.
saying
okay.
after she's told him. If
Yeah,
she's
like if
watching
I've
to see how
if
he
I've gotten to know a
responds.
person and I've told them like I don't like these certain things or whatever, this is how I grew up, whatever it is, the conversation that you
okay.
have to a certain depth, you have that measuring cup, and it's kind of like, all right, every time they do something that crosses a boundary of yours, that's them losing a trust.
So it's not. I think I understand what's happening now. You're ranking the different boundary levels based on how much they affect you.
No,
It should be
just it's just if you
one
cross it, you
thing
cross
is-
it.
Well, that's not the way you're saying it.
Yeah.
If one thing is done, they have to go because
No, I'm
you've
saying,
told
like-
them ahead of time.
No, I'm not going to measure certain boundaries as more important than the others. No,
So
if
how
you
do they
just
have a
if you just do something, you're losing trust little by little compared to if you were to do things to gain your trust. I don't know how to measure
This
your
should
gaining
be a
of trust.
domino effect thing. Like if I walk up to you and I go, hey, look, don't say, don't call me late for dinner. Don't hide, don't lie to me, don't cheat on me, and all these things. And you do one of them, they're all equally weighted.
Yeah.
That means that I've told you I don't like these things, and you've blatantly done them. You have to go.
Yeah.
No, but you're saying that you're marking.
No, like, it's just going
there's
down.
No
I think she's just
going
looking at
down
how
a list.
they're
As soon as
acting.
any one of the things on the list is wrong, they go. That's how it should be, because you've preemptively told them, "Hey, I don't like these things."
Kareem, I don't know if you realize you're saying the same thing I'm saying. You're just saying it in a man's perspective.
No. This is because what you're saying is that there's a list.
What he's saying is he doesn't give them another chance.
No,
at all.
if you've
Whereas
told
you're
them the
saying
whole
what
list-
you're saying is you kind of look at behavior, and it's a little bit different. You're saying kind of similar but
Please-
different.
please
because
translate,
she's
'cause I don't
saying
know
things
what's
like
happening.
she's watching actions and she's watching things that they're doing and saying, not crazy about that, not crazy about this, and trust may
have
be
they
going
crossed
down
those boundaries? Though?
Maybe not a boundary
I'm asking.
crosser.
No,
but
maybe it's not a boundary they
maybe a
cross, but just
behavior
certain
that's like,
things that they do.
Didn't really like that, and like she's using that to like reduce the amount of trust. Whereas you're saying they cross the boundary, they're out. That's it.
Yeah.
No chances,
Well-
no conversation, no nothing.
Well, if okay, so this I'm glad. Thank you for that. So if there's no, honestly,
I think this is the first time Damaris actually
I think
understood
me
what
either.
you said. Most of the time she's asking me what you're saying.
Let's
because
start-
Kareem, I've always struggled a little bit with Kareem's outlook on this, because he's always said this: if you cross the line one time, you're out. And I have a hard time with that, because I am probably a more forgiving person than I need to be.
No, but you
and
have to
I try
respect
to
yourself
empathize with
first.
the other person. Like, okay, I know I've made
Empathize with
mistakes in
you.
the past.
Yeah.
You
right?
were your
So
best friend.
if I make a mistake in a relationship, I want some grace too. So
Yep.
if you make a mistake and you see that mistake and you can
Yes.
acknowledge, you know what, I made a mistake.
Yes,
Then I am
Okay.
willing to give you a chance.
Hang on. This. Okay.
My problem is I've given too many chances.
Okay,
and
so-
I can recognize that
See,
too.
but I
No,
understand with
wait,
that,
wait,
and I
wait,
agree with
wait.
that. But then I also,
Let's-
what she was explaining to you about the whole thing about I have boundaries, and let's say they're not crossing those, and some they might, but let's say that they didn't. It's just their behavior in general, like their characteristics. It's just them in general that I'm studying, and I'm like, I don't know.
So again, it falls back to the age-old communication. So in between those little things where you see somebody's, how did you say it again? Their
characteristics,
Behavior.
yeah.
You just kind of like
Studying behavior, analyzing
breakdance
it,
or whatever from
observing.
Australia. Anyway, the so if you did something like that, that's when that question needs to be. Of
course.
If it felt weird in that
Yeah.
moment, you need to stop them at that point and go, "Hey, I want to understand how you meant this to come
I
across."
always ask questions.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's another thing that you could put on the bar and pay attention to because it's something that made you feel uncomfortable. The thing is, you want to go through life with somebody that makes you comfortable. Why would you want to be with somebody who makes you
But
uncomfortable?
also too, sometimes it's like Damaris was saying, like she wants a little grace, especially because it's like we observe ourselves and we're like, hey, we make mistakes too. But not only that, but it's kind of like this. If somebody does something and you actually sit and understand why they did what they did, it makes a big difference because it
does.
opens your mind.
It
Because
really
then you
does.
can like if I were to make a mistake
Give me an
and
example.
if I were to make a mistake,
And that's something I always try to do.
okay, earlier we were talking before we opened up and we were talking about my tone, right? And y'all both said I have to speak with a tone, right? So it's kind of like that. It's like, well, Bianca, why do you speak like that? I don't like it. I don't appreciate it. It makes me feel a certain way. And it's kind of like, what? I didn't realize I was doing something because that's who I am. And and it's
But
not
that's just the way you speak.
No,
though.
I know,
Like,
but
it's
I'm
just-
giving him an example.
Sometimes I think it's your accent a little bit.
I don't know. But
I don't think
tell
it's an
him
intentional tone.
I tell him like
right?
it's like I'm telling you like, well, I didn't mean to talk to you in a certain way, Kareem. Like I didn't mean to offend you. If I did, I'm sorry. But it's sitting and allowing a person to explain themselves so you can understand where the behavior is coming, or you
Correct.
can understand if this is actually just a mistake because they didn't realize it, or if it's something that just who they are, that it's like, oh,
So
you're
in
not
the-
even willing to
Or is
try
it
and
an
change.
expectation
So
that
in-
you have
Yeah.
that they maybe just didn't even.
So in that
Never had
moment,
before.
in that moment when that was asked, like how did you greet the information? Were you like, because I mean, you seem like you made a little bit of fun of it because like, hi guys.
Well, of course I am.
She was like,
Because
"F you."
honestly, I
It's
don't
my
hear
tone, that's
when
it.
I hear myself. I'm like, I don't have a tone because I know what I sound
I
like.
don't have a tone.
I know what I sound like. I know what I sound like when I'm mad. I know what I sound like when I'm sad. I know what I sound like when I'm happy. So I'm like, and I'm not understanding that perspective because it's like they say, like, you don't see yourself all day, even though you're with yourself 24/7. You're not seeing what everyone else is seeing. You're not hearing what everyone else is hearing.
Right.
So sometimes I'm kind of like, what? You know, like what? Or even my face. It's like, I don't know. You know, I'm just gonna look at you the way I look at you.
And, yeah, see, that's my thing too. I show everything in my face.
So it's kind of like that's
No
but
But
that's
purpose.
people at work know, like,
but that's a prime example. If I'm a certain way and I don't realize it because it's never been brought to my attention, first off, or second, it's kind of like I don't know how to change that. Let me try to work on it. That's what she means by, hey, you made a mistake. You know, I'll grant you some grace. You can fix it, whatever. As long as you're trying, that's all that matters. But if it's something that's
and here's the thing, you speaking like that with your tone, and it's not an intentional tone. That's just the way you talk.
Yeah.
So he can't be like, oh, that's my boundary. You crossed it. That's it. That's just who she is as a person.
Okay, so
Mic drop.
This is so this is what I'm saying. Like, and this is the difference between what men understand, and what women understand. So again, like I said, that would have to be addressed, right? So
Of
once it
course.
happens, you go, hey, look, I don't want you talking to me like a gorilla with your hands all the way out here and your tone.
How about if that's how
Bianca?
she talks though? That's just
But-
maybe I'm an
naturally her-
expressive
again-
person,
but
but
again,
I get it.
I understand that, but if it makes you feel a certain way as a man, and you've gone to your mate, the person that says that they love you and wants to take care of you and all this other stuff, they will absolutely understand where you're coming from and do their best not to provoke. It's kind of like the other way around. Let's say you don't want your man farting on you all the time, right? And you make the request, and
Okay.
he continues to do that.
How about
That
if he does
means-
it in his sleep? He can't control that.
Exactly.
That's in his sleep.
And
though.
but that's the thing. But
So hold on.
But by your rules, he's out.
With you.
He's out.
I'm just so glad we only have one man on this panel.
You talking about mic drop?
But that's the thing. There's certain things that you are. In a relationship, you're not going to agree with your partner 100% on everything. There's going to be things that they're gonna do that you don't agree with, and like I've told Ken, I was like, we're just gonna agree to disagree on this topic.
Yes.
And it's not enough to be like, I'm gonna end this entire relationship, but we just may not.
I give Damaris 100 score because sometimes I think about this when we sit here and we talk about conversations like this that have to do with the sexes. It's kind of like, I'm kind of glad we don't have another man on the panel because I feel like I would have to explain myself even harder. It's already hard to explain to Kareem.
Well, no, it's not. The thing is, in that moment, you're saying him having flatulence while he's asleep. There's no control there because he's asleep. You're not asleep when you're talking to your man. You're
well, let's say I'm excited about something, but it comes across as rude or angry. It's like, well, I was just excited because this happened, and I was just trying to tell you, like,
I get
my fault that you got hurt. Like,
no, that's not how that works. That's not exactly. That's not how that works. Because look, okay, how about this? Let's say that same person is your daughter, and he's talking to her that way, and she asks him, "Hey, could you not do that because you frightened me?" How would you want him to respond in that moment?
Well, of course, I respond whenever I do. Like, and I've noticed things. Like, I'll give you an example. I've noticed things about me that's been told, and I sit there and I say, "I'm about to tell you something. Please let me know if I'm speaking in a rude tone or an angry tone so that I can try to change it." And then I push my voice up higher.
Sarcastic.
Yeah. I push my voice up higher.
She's trying. Like, she's putting all her energy into trying.
Like, I try to be very patient.
To tell you something right now. You better watch.
Well, I don't know if y'all know this. Half the time when we talk to men, we talk to y'all like y'all are children. We explain things to you.
But we're not looking for a mama. That's the thing.
No, but that's how we only feel that we can get our message across and it can be understood.
No.
So we break things down. But that's what I do. I say, and I try to change my tone. I go higher. I smile sometimes. I raise my eyebrows. I'm like, something has to be working. But like
it's a struggle.
Women are very complex, and men are very black and white and simple. And that's why I think she's trying to say. It's like sometimes we just have to be like super simple, like this.
So check this. So check this out. Now this is going to be
because our explanation is probably a whole paragraph long.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is the thing that I made a connection on. So like guys are usually like just kind of like gruff, and we kind of grunt and look at each other. And we know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Because we're on the same wavelength. But when you're raising a daughter, the daughter normally like gravitates towards you because two reasons. One, it's survival, right? She doesn't want to be no offense, mom.
No, I get it.
No offense, mom. But like if a Rottweiler's coming, she's not running behind you. She's running behind dad, and dad's got to take care of it, right? So she already is feeling that protection and understanding a little bit of the grunting, right? So now when she comes to the man, instead of having like an actual conversation with him, she's coming with, well, he should know my thoughts because this is how me and my dad communicated, See what I'm saying? And then on the female side, when you're talking to your mom, you could say some disrespectful shit without knowing that you're saying some disrespectful shit because you're a boy and she's a woman, right? And you say like let's say your son was like, "Hey, mom," or you like, "Hey, Daniel, do this for me." He's like, "Hold the fuck on."
No, I
felt the heat come back with a hand slap
because that's kind of happened.
Well, that's what I'm.
But and I'm like, I have to address it real quick. I am not one of your friends because he'll be in conversation with his friends and turn to me and respond like he's talking to his friends, and I'm like, no. Not one of your friends.
See, and that's what I'm and that's what I'm saying. So like, men have become better communicators because they're dealing with their mom who has a little bit more authority over them and also has a certain way that she likes to be spoken to, right? So
I don't know if men have become better.
No. So then when
they have not.
I'm just trying to show you the differences.
We don't even know how y'all are surviving on this earth without us half the time.
So now. So now men go into the dating world, right? And they're wanting to communicate with you, like to make sure that you understand what we're saying. And you're like, you should be reading my mind because you are gravitating to the opposite sexes when you're a youth. And as you get older, you think that continuing that behavior will help you when it doesn't. What happens is things fall through the cracks. You make that face like, oh, I didn't like that, but you didn't say anything to him. And months later, because you're pot committed, you're now backing out and going, well, fuck this guy.
I will say this. That's one thing I learned from my first marriage, because I didn't communicate as much in my first marriage. And a lot of it has to do with I was just younger and
How old were you when you got married?
21.
Oh, okay.
And now in my relationship, I over communicate probably sometimes. Like there's times I probably didn't need to say certain things, and I've realized that, and I'm like,
I rather say everything and no
Oh
stone be
God.
unturned.
Sometimes
No.
it's not worth the conversation.
No.
It's not worth the outcome. So it's like I have to think about, okay, is this something worth bringing up? Is it a big enough deal that I should mention it, or let me just let it slide because it could have been a one-off, but if it does happen again, then I'll mention it. So it's just one of those things where I analyze now, what are the things that I truly need to say
Is your
that
mic not
actually
working?
makes a difference?
It's not even saying anything.
Is it?
Is your mic
No,
on?
yeah, it is.
Oh,
It
okay.
is. It is.
I'm tripping.
But yeah.
But
now
I
I'm
do-
trying to find that balance.
I do have a question. So, knowing, from our previous episodes, Damaris has been in an abusive relationship. I've been in an abusive relationship, several actually. Well, yeah, 2.
For me too.
Okay. Have you ever been in an abusive relationship?
Yeah, I mean, like they say, you are what you attract, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're unhealthy, you attract the opposite of you. I'm super giving, but not giving enough to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I give myself away. So I got myself with a narcissist, which is great, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get to get everything that they want, and I pour into them, and it drains the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But I feel in that moment, because at the time in my mind, I was a people pleaser. That's the only way I can accept love, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was at the time. So as I grew up and started growing into the person that I am now, I noticed that that's not what gives me value. What gives me value is, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and also the gift that He gave to me,
Mm-hmm.
which is, my gift to the world. Everybody knows what it is.
So, other than being in abusive relationships ourselves, have any of y'all seen it, like growing up?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, not for me. I think it was so shocking.
I'll give you one, and I'm so glad you made that
Mm-hmm.
question, because Dr. Cool, and that is actually her name,
Oh, that's cool.
right? Anyway,
Appointed.
Okay.
so Dr. Cool was talking to my cousin. I went and did one session with her, but the one thing that she said, she goes, you need to find out your history,
Mm-hmm.
because honestly, when a woman is born, we already had this conversation, but when a woman is born, she has all the eggs that she'll ever have in her entire life in her body at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, you have lived 2 lives.
Yeah.
You've been born with your mom, and then when you came out, you started living your life. Now, whatever kids you might have in the future have lived as long as you are now into forward. That's how we are able to progress the species, right? That's how you're able to learn things that you couldn't intrinsically learn directly from that person, because there's too much of a age gap, right? So as you progress through this life, what you want to do is you want to have people that you can rely on, people who can help you understand where the dividing line is when it comes to relationships.
Yeah.
And you have to establish that yourself. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I understand. And it's funny that you brought that up, because I was going to say the same thing too. Like, I've seen abusive relationships growing up to where it was kind of like, I'm the oldest. So it was like, whenever I would be around other people's kids that were younger than me, it was kind of like I knew what I heard, what was going on. So I would protect them and be like, hey, let's go play over here, so that they themselves couldn't hear it.
You knew the signals.
Yes, and I not only that, but actually physically saw these women come out with busted eyes, busted lips, shirts torn, like scratch marks, everything. And being so little, you look at this woman like questioning yourself as a little girl, like,
Am
why
I supposed to
why are you
this?
Yeah. And then not only that, but then it's kind of like you want to help, but you don't know how.
Right.
So it's like a weird area to being the oldest, because you're protecting children, but then you're not old enough to protect.
You're still technically a child.
Yeah. So I was gonna say something else, but go ahead.
No, I think for me it was just so different because I wasn't exposed to it. So when I did get married and I was in my relationship with my first husband, and he spoke to me in ways that were inappropriate, I didn't know that wasn't normal. Because I'm like, I'm like, well, is this what happens behind closed doors that I didn't see with my parents because they had conversations in private?
See, and
like, is this the way it's supposed? Like, is this normal kind of thing?
But
and I was so young that I didn't know. It wasn't until I got older and I maybe started questioning a little bit more that I was like, wait a second, like, I don't like this.
But I'm glad
this doesn't feel good, and actually, this is making me feel bad about myself. Because in the beginning, you're just kind of like, oh, okay, well, maybe he just doesn't like this.
Have you talked to your parents about it? Like your
No.
mom?
No, but even if there was situations like that with your own
They
parents,
had no idea until I got divorced.
But see, and I'm glad y'all brought that up too, because when you brought up the whole thing about when you're born, a woman has all the eggs that she'll ever have. I feel like a lot of the times the older generation passes down things without realizing, especially as women, because things were done behind closed doors. And we ourselves didn't know that growing up. Certain things were done.
Because the message was, you stay
Discretion.
married, serve your husband, you keep your things in private. You
discretion.
Don't tell people what's happening in your relationship. Like, that was the way that I was raised. It was like, you keep things private between you and your husband and behind closed doors.
Correct.
No one needs to know your business. And in a way, that is good, because if you and your husband have a disagreement and you go running and telling people, then you're inviting people into your marriage.
Correct.
But
that's never good.
But there needs to be a balance of, something doesn't feel right, and being able to have someone you can bounce things off of to question that. And I think also having positive relationships with other couples that are a good influence is probably something I would recommend to other couples also, so that you can have those conversations.
Well, so when Dr. Cool had asked those questions, right, I went back and I asked my grandmother, like, what was her past? She said that her dad used to beat the ever-loving shit out of her mom, which was my great-great-grandmother. And she, in her mind, made it up to go, well, you know what? She doesn't want to be a victim, so she'll be the aggressor. And that's why she was so controlling in the raising of not only her children, but also me. I never really got to go and do anything because she didn't want me to be turning on her.
Because that's the only control of her life that she had.
That's deep. That you just got me thinking about myself.
So that's why I'm saying, like, when you get that information from the past, now you understand why your grandmother act the way you are, and it's not because of you, it's because of how she was raised. Now you get to see the perspective.
That's a defense mechanism.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the only way, and that's why I harbor no ill will towards my grandmother. The reason why she raised me with an iron fist and the way she did is because, one, that's the only way she knew how to love me.
And that makes sense. It's like the whole tough love thing where a lot of women become single mothers because they're trying to get out of their situation, that it's almost like they lose a part of themselves when it comes to raising their children, that they kind of like, they need their children to be strong because they themselves have to be strong. So they don't have time to, like, not that they don't care, it's just they don't have time to deal with certain things because they're trying to survive. That it's like you have no other choice,
and you want your children to be able to survive.
Yes,
in a situation,
and it's unfortunately it sucks because without you realizing, you pass that down too. The whole secretive, behind closed doors abuse gets passed down without you realizing. The tough love thing gets passed down without you realizing. It's like it's a thing. It's a cycle, and you're just kind of like, what the hell?
And that's why you have to have the courage enough to say, hey, it stops with me.
Yeah.
And then when
it's
you
funny you say that.
Oh, what?
Because we started the conversation on the It Ends With Us movie, and that's exactly what the movie title means. Is in the relationship, she decides,
dang,
it ends with us.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's what you want. Like,
us.
you want to be able to have that open communication. You want to be able to, like, for instance, there's this one, I love this video. Every time it comes around, I give it a heart. But there's this man sitting in the parking lot, and his daughter's just screaming her head off. And he's like, yep, we just gonna be out here, and he's videoing her, and it's on live, and she's just crying and crying and crying. It's like, yep, you didn't want, I told you we're not gonna get this thing, and then you decide to act ass, and I told you we ain't doing that. We don't do that in this family. That's not how we handle things. And she's like, and they go through the whole thing, and then finally at the end, he goes, what did you learn? I think she explained whatever. He said, all right, baby, I just want to let you know you can't just act anyway when I ask you to do something. It's not just for me to tell you something that you don't like. It's because I want to be here to protect you. You understand that? She goes, yes. And then I think he gives her a kiss, and then, the video ends. That's the way you want to talk to your children. This whole do as I say, not as I do bullshit is not the way to raise your children.
Or giving them everything they want.
Yeah, you have to be the example. If you're not the example for your kids, they're going to get the example from television. That's why they call it, you got television, and then you have social media. All these people saying, okay, well, you're not pretty enough, or you're not fit enough, or you're not whatever enough.
But I think also too, what's the movie? And I'm trying to think of all the movies I've ever seen. There's a movie with Mark Wahlberg, where he's abusive, and it's with Reese Witherspoon. Him and Reese Witherspoon. I can't remember the name of it right now. Yeah, it's an older movie, but he's abusive in the movie. And I've come to realize too, a lot of the movies that we've watched growing up, like you were saying, it programs you. They kind of glamorize abuse because this guy is good looking. This guy is.
So these are the movies you're watching in your household?
No, I'm saying growing up. Like these are movies that were out at the theaters, out on the TV when you had when we actually didn't have DVDs and all that. You had to wait. Yeah, so I can't remember the name of the movie right now.
And that's the thing. Like I think in speaking to other women as well is that you start analyzing. Okay, well this one thing is bad, but everything else is so good. That is it worth leaving for this one thing?
And that's the thing. And that's where self-respect comes in, because you need to know that God has your best interests in mind. He wants to make sure that what you say, and you say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to bend on any of my boundaries, but you bend on that one, you're going to get burned because you bent on it. But if you say, you know what? I deserve to be treated like this, and this, that person will show up in your life, and you'll see the amazing blessings that'll happen for you.
And you have those moments where you're just like, well, what if I leave and then he changes, and then I missed out on this amazing person that he was the 80% of the time he was good.
Sometimes
I could tell you as women, we have those thoughts too.
But sometimes that guy has to leave in order to become the better self, because he can't be the better self with you. You're giving him too many options, right? As soon as you shut him down, then he's like, you know what? Oh shit, I needed that.
I'm just sharing from like my perspective.
Sure.
The things that I've seen, and I know other women that may be listening to this may actually have going through those emotions and feelings, and you have to stop and do what's best for you in that moment.
And I think too, like, I think a lot of women feel like they're alone, but when they speak out, you come to find out all these people around them have gone through something similar, and you're like, damn, I wish I would have spoken up sooner, because then I could have gotten help sooner. I could have got out of my situation.
So it's interesting to say that, because when I was going through my stuff, I mentioned it to someone in confidence, and I was like, hey, this thing happened, and she was like, oh yeah, I've been through that before. Actually,
like
two women.
Two
women. Oh yeah, that's happened to me
because
before.
Sometimes it's a learned lesson. You're like,
still in the same relationships, and then you start thinking like, well, maybe this is
this not the normal. No.
Like
the thing is, you have to trust in the Lord to know that He's going to provide for you what you expect from your life. If you settle, that's your problem. That's not His. The thing is, patience is where patience. They always say patience is a virtue, right? Right. Most of the best things that ever happened to you never happened like immediately. It was like years and years and time and all this other stuff for this thing to go through, and then all of a sudden, bam. How long did it take for you to get your doctorate?
A few years.
To me, it was 2 months. She did that shit quick.
Almost
I was
3 years.
damn.
Yeah, but still, like, you know what I mean?
I know. Earlier, I think it's the cat hair, because earlier I think I swallowed one. I went.
Yeah,
it was on the mic.
Likes to hang out on this table.
But also too, like, I want to add something else. Like, I think a lot of the times the situations that people are placed in, because I don't want to just specify that it's only women that are getting abused. I know I've seen and heard of men getting abused as well. So the abuser realizes the strength that the person has that they're abusing, that they tear them down to a level of just literally
We're
dirt.
just trying to be dominant, right?
Yeah. But when you yourself trying to get out of that situation, being abused for so long, you realize the strength that you have, and you're like, where the hell was this for so long? You don't even, it's like it just comes, but you've had it with there. You just didn't know how to access it because somebody was constantly just deteriorating, like, you know?
Everybody has their, this is my final straw moment.
Yeah, that too.
Everyone has it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's early and sometimes it's super late. And when you do make that bounce back, that glow up, as they call it, it is one of the best feelings that you'll ever have because you found yourself in that moment. And there's nothing more satisfying than figuring out exactly who you are and knowing that you are capable of absolutely anything you put your mind to.
And I have seen rare occasions where a person will come out and realize that they are an abuser. And they actually...
So when did you do that?
Me? Whatever.
Oh my God.
That they come out and they realize that and they get the help that they need, and you see them and they stay single for a while because they truly understand, like, hey, I saw this, or I thought this was the norm, that I became this without knowing. You know, it's like anything else, you know, not to say that your environment, you know, dictates who you're going to become, because there's
it does,
but there's several people that say, like, they have those experiences where, like, they have twins and they separate them, and then they grow up in different households, and one becomes an alcoholic and their parent wasn't, and the other one doesn't become one and their parent was, you know, it's stuff like that, you know. So it's kind of like you saw something enough that you thought it was the norm and you became the abuser, and then you realized it and you got the help. There is rare occasions like that. I don't see them often, but
the thing is, you don't ever want to rest your hat on or your laurels on that happening. That is such a miracle.
Oh
kind
yeah,
of thing,
for sure.
That if you see someone and they need the help, you know, point them in the direction and then walk your fucking ass away.
I did, and I
because you're not an expert.
Long.
None of us are doctors.
No.
We
and
can't
that person didn't
prescribe
change.
anything to anybody, and we don't know how to diagnose anything. So as soon as that bad behavior, the one especially that you don't like, happens, you must leave, especially in the beginning. That way you don't have all the attached feelings and crazy stuff. You know who you are. You know what your value is. You know how you want to be treated. You put that out there. Somebody will hopefully respect that person that you want to be respected as, and then you get together and move it on down the road.
Yeah, and the biggest thing with addicts especially is that they need to want it. It doesn't matter how much you want it for them.
Yeah,
they need to want it, and they need to be committed to it. And it's a lifelong commitment, because when you're an addict for life.
Yep, that is very true.
And as the partner of an addict, you commit to that.
That is very, very true. We can talk about that on the next episode.
Where did you go?
Well, I'm just thinking, like, that's true.
You like blipped off for a minute.
So I guess if you haven't seen It Ends With Us, it is a really good movie, and it brings up a lot of issues and trauma. And if you've been in an abusive relationship in the past, it probably will trigger you. I know I left a little triggered. But it is a very good book, and it is a very good movie. So highly recommend. And
do they put a hotline, like, at the end at the credits?
I didn't see one. I'm surprised they didn't. But anyone listening that's in an abusive relationship, know that you can definitely get out. It is possible. Get help. Talk to people. And we wish you the best.
The other thing I would say is, when you do find out that you are being abused, you have to find the courage within yourself to leave. No matter what the person is giving to you, because whatever they're giving to you is just a bargaining chip for your self-respect. And at that point you become a slave. You don't want to deal with that. The thing what you want is for there to be growth either on your end or on the other person's end, but sometimes that means your absence. And if you're okay, you have to be okay with that. Because if at any point you compromise yourself to try to, you know, assist this person, when again, you're not a fucking doctor, and even if you are a doctor, you're not that person's doctor.
I think
would be a conflict of interest. Exactly. You
Mm-hmm.
need to just move on and, you know, work on yourself. Try to figure out why you lack the self-respect needed to keep the boundaries that you set for yourself.
I think another thing I want to add too, because I remember a situation not that long ago, but if you do want to get out, make sure that it's a for sure thing, because people that do love you, when they put themselves at risk to help, that's an issue at itself, because it's like you get tired of trying to help a person over and over and over again, and they keep going back, and you're like,
assholes. Yeah, those people.
I'm just kind of like, you can't do anything about it. You can't help the person if they're not willing to help themselves. So you yourself are putting yourself in danger trying to help someone, and you're just kind of like.
And again, that's where it comes to put your mask on first.
It's hard.
And if that mask is you putting your mask on and stepping out of the situation, and then they can't follow you, then they need to stay in that situation. That is none of your business.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. Like always, like, subscribe, follow, and send us questions or comments. And
we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Peace out. Thing. Sounds like there's some drama.
There's definitely
Called.
Oh my God. It begins. Life.
I see, like, everyone plays a part, right?
Yeah.
So,
Of course.
Thing Called Life.
Oh, that's nothing. Mike says I have a tone every time I talk, and I said, you know what? You're
do have a tone.
Oh my God.
Me the fuck
You
off.
do. You always have a tone, though. That's just your natural voice.
But a tone is a tone when you talk. It's different when I'm mad, when I'm sad. But he says you talk with an attitude, and I said, I'm gonna beat your ass.
He ain't wrong.
Thank you.
I'm just so enthusiastic when I speak. Okay.
Enthusiastic. Yeah.
Why don't you want to do this as an ASMR episode?
Because I have a tone when I whisper too.
Do you really?
She's sensitive about her tone now. We told her she does have a tone.
Because y'all said, what did it say? What did she say? Oh, that Kent says, don't yell at me, and you said that.
Yeah, but Kent, it just doesn't yell, like joking around. He'll be like,
It's definitely a joke.
No, my man is serious.
And your guy said, you have a tone, and I'm like, he ain't wrong.